All right. I really should have changed my title screen tonight for this episode since I labeled this one in the description down below the Star Trek Burnham review show. So let's get to talking about Star Trek Discovery. Oh my God, Vandy Beth just left. Where did she go? Was she so offended about my joke that she bailed on us? Oh my gosh. Oh, wait, here she comes back.
That's the wrong button.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's a little more than just closing your little screen door. All right. So, how are you both tonight?
I am good.
I'm so glad to hear it. Anthony, how are you doing?
I've had this entire week off work, so I am delightful.
Holy smack, that's amazing.
Well, it's one of those situations we only get to carry over so much, and I can't go anywhere this year, thanks to COVID. So I'm now trying to find ways to burn it off before the year ends. So I was like, it was my birthday on Tuesday, so I was like, I'll just take the entire week off.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And it's my birthday on Saturday.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
This is why we're friends, Alan.
I know.
Birthdays are so close.
My birthday is not until January.
But we still love you.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though you don't share our sign.
That's good to know.
Anyway, so let's get into the episode. Tonight's episode, episode 6, is called Scavengers. Mm-hmm. And so let's go around the table really quickly and just sort of give an overall impression, what you thought of this episode. We're going to get very, very spoilery as the discussion goes on, but let's keep it a little general at the beginning. What'd you think, Anthony? Give us your thoughts on this one.
So I really enjoyed it. There were some things I would have loved to have seen more of. Immediately it was that there was a nice little bit of humor throughout. We saw some more of the grim future of the 32nd century. Mm-hmm. But equally, we saw kind of a bit more of the light of the Federation and what's going on inside, how they're dealing with external factors, and we started to see some delicious signs of new tech.
So
there are lots of little tantalizing pieces that make me really look forward to what's going to come over the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. While also giving us a nice little storyline for Burnham where she kind of screws up.
Mm-hmm. Vandy Beth?
I fucking hated this episode.
Woo! Oh, that's awesome. Coming out with guns blazing.
I mean, I liked all the look at all this cool future tech parts of the episode. I loved the Stamets Adira moments in the episode.
Yep.
Stamets is turning downright cuddly, and I am here for it. But that's all the non-Burnham parts of the episode. Yep. All the Burnham parts of the episode offended me on a deep, primal level. As someone who likes good storytelling, number one, but also as a Navy veteran, it offended me because you don't do the kind of things that Burnham does if you want to remain an officer in good standing.
Right.
And furthermore, there was no reason for it. There was no reason for her to go rogue the way she did. And we can, I figure we can talk about that more as we get into the episode. But if you just wanted my overview, I was very dissatisfied with this episode.
My buddy Josh, I've been trying to get him to come on, and he had something else going on last week, so he couldn't do it. So I asked him this week, and he's like, well, I would rather come on a show on a week that I enjoyed the episode. So he would have... So he didn't want to come on and be the voice of negativity. So Josh, if you're watching,
you wouldn't have been the only one.
Yeah. So for me, I'm kind of right in between the two of you. I didn't fucking hate it, but and there was a lot of things that I liked about it. I just feel like the emphasis. I want the emphasis to be on discovery, and I know that they're building something here that's going to play down through the season. But this whole thing of Michael and her disobedience has just worn thin.
Very thin.
And so Vandy Beth, go ahead and talk a little bit more about that, because since you have the military background, I just find it insane that this person has been allowed to get away with this much shit.
Definitely. And
Run.
Real quick, let's offer the caveat that this is not a problem that's unique to Discovery. You know, going back all the way to the original series, there's the Menagerie, where Spock hijacked the ship and flew it to a planet that was so off limits that the Federation's only remaining death penalty was awarded to anyone who dared to visit it, and there were still no consequences.
Right.
But still, we like to think that storytelling is more sophisticated here in the 21st century. So they really don't have any excuse when it comes to Discovery. And there was no really established urgent need for Burnham to go rogue. She asked Saru if they could do this mission, and I thought she was asking if the Discovery herself would go to investigate at Hunhao. But then once it became clear that was not the case, I mean, thinking Discovery would have to go because it was far enough away that only the spore drive could go there practically.
Right, exactly.
But of course, that doesn't make sense, because if they were standing by in case they might need to go to that other planet, then they could stand by from Hunhao as easily as they could from Earth, since they had the spore drive.
Right.
But then Saru told her no, and she took Book's ship, which means she never needed Discovery in the first place, which meant she could have just asked Saru if she could take a small team in Booker's ship and do the mission that way. And that would have been, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't have been acceptable. It's not like they would need the absolutely entire crew to go to that planet they were on standby about.
Right.
And obviously they were able to get there and back in less than 12 hours. So the distance wasn't prohibitive to a warp drive. So,
right, and if it was that close, then it certainly still would have been within subspace communication range. So they could have been activated if they had to have jumped to wherever the other thing was. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I even back in the 24th century, they were able to. I mean, they never acted on it in nearly enough time, but they were always able to say, "Captain, there's an unauthorized launch going on in the shuttle bay."
Right.
Where was that? How is that not a thing? How could she have launched that ship, opened the bay doors? I mean, well, the bay force field, and launched that damn ship without anybody knowing?
Preach.
There are definitely some plot holes. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I mean, Vandy Beth made the point that we've been seeing this through all of Trek.
Yeah,
there's always been a little insubordination, whether it was in the original series or even through to Voyager. Paris saw consequences for his actions, and for the first time since Battle at the Binary Stars, we see Burnham facing some consequences here, which was part of what I liked about this. Is yes, she went rogue, she did her own thing, but she faced consequences at the end. It wasn't just, well, she saved some lives, so we'll let her get away with it. She was demoted, she lost her status as number one, and that is what somewhat made this shine. And I'm sure Vandy Beth, as a Navy veteran, you'll probably say, yeah, but with that you'd probably be thrown out in the real forces. But it's more than she's been given to this date since she was Starfleet's first mutineer in season 1.
Well, the fact that they didn't do more to her, the admiral explained it was because he still needed her, but
yeah,
really saying things like that to her just gives her even greater license to act with impunity.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
You should never say that to anybody, even if it's true.
Right.
You screw up
And-
again and you're out, kid.
Exactly.
And so, her big punishment is, being removed from the rank of first officer. She's, knocked back down to science officer, which is basically second or third in command. So it's not that big of a, repercussion on her actions.
No, it is not.
I mean, she
No.
didn't really want to be first officer. I mean, she was very hesitant about being first officer anyway. So I don't know. That was a big thing for me this week.
Put me in a uniform and I'll be the new first officer. I'm down. That's all I'm saying.
You're already on the bridge.
I am.
He is already on the bridge.
So, okay, let me pull up. We're gonna get some comments, but there's one that Wendy made that I was thinking about earlier, and I'm glad she brought this up. Saru comes to Tilly and says, so what's going on with Michael? And Wendy says, Tilly didn't report Michael immediately. I don't think that she was quite aware. I mean, it seemed like she wasn't aware of what Michael had done. Right? She knew that Michael wasn't on the ship. And I think that at that point, shouldn't she have gone to Saru?
Well, at that point, all she knew was that Grudge has been put in her quarters.
But she knew that Michael wasn't on the ship. And she knew that Book's ship was gone.
True.
So why? So isn't it? I think it's very fortunate that Saru came to the one person on the ship who had figured out that Michael was gone. I mean, I guess they're best friends and roommates and stuff. But
I was going to say they share a room. I mean, if anyone's going to know that Burnham is up to something, it's going to be Tilly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, if anyone wants to put Grudge in my quarters, I would be so happy.
Well, I'm glad that Grudge got some screen time this week.
Yes.
Grudge needs all of the screen time.
Grudge is an excellent kitty.
All right. So now that we've got we've discussed Michael and her actions, but she's gone off on this solo mission basically with Giorgio. I really enjoyed this new setting. We're on like this big warehouse planet, and it's run by the
planet Amazon.
Exactly.
Planet
Amazon fulfillment. Yeah. And it's run by the Pantone whatever the number is. I don't remember the number from last week. So the Emerald curtain or whatever the hell it's called. The Emerald, what is it?
The Emerald Chain.
Chain. That's it.
Which really sounds like something you'd buy at a sex shop.
I own 3 of those.
Oh, it sounds like something you would use in the seed vault.
Careful.
Throwback to last week. Yeah, I know.
Careful with that; it's slippery.
But anyway, I really enjoyed the sort of like Mad Max, aesthetic that we had on this planet.
Right.
A lot of Discovery has sort of a very blue tone. Like everything seems to be in shades of blues. So it was nice to get, I mean, this sounds stupid, but it was nice to get some oranges, and reds and grays for a while. It was just like, it was a nice color palette change.
Right.
Yeah.
And greens.
A little, well, yeah. I thought his green makeup was really well done.
The
Orion dude.
Oh, yeah. Fun fact, that actor is the real-life husband of Mary Wiseman, who plays Tilly.
Oh, no way.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know she was married.
I didn't either.
She got married pretty quietly. I want to say maybe a year or two ago.
She didn't tell me. So I guess it was quiet.
She probably didn't tell Burnham either to get her back for not telling her about the leaving the ship situation.
Come on, Alan. She definitely told Burnham.
She hoped Burnham would be her bridesmaid. Anyway, so along the way, we get these new little glimpses of whatever this weird thing is that's going on with Giorgio.
Yes.
Yes.
What do we think? I've got some ideas, but I want to hear yours. What's going on with Philippa?
Well, I think there's two components to this. One is some sort of future tech jiggery pokery. Maybe she has some sort of implant or something that used to do something for her, and now it's malfunctioning, and it's not. And then there's the emotional component, which is whoever this San person meant to her. It's obviously an important person in her past who she lost, and for some reason, the thing that's malfunctioning is bringing thoughts of that person back to the fore.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in our universe too long, and she's going soft and falling victim to our petty human emotions that are corrupting her Terran nature.
I hope not.
Well, they're gonna extract that gene, that mirror universe gene from her, and so she'll be a good person, and she'll be compatible with our universe or whatever.
No, let Giorgio be Giorgio.
Exactly right.
Yeah, let her just be villainous all over the place. I'm down. I'm here for that.
So what if Mr. Eyeglasses last week did something to her, or attached something to her, or implanted something to her? Because it seems like she's having these flashes of the mirror universe. Is she being drawn back to it? Is she being used to create a new pathway to it?
I don't know. I don't know. It hadn't crossed my mind that the David Cronenberg guy had anything to do with this, but it didn't start until after she had met him. So
exactly,
I think that's a very good hypothesis.
Yeah. Yep. Daniel links to a story of when she got married back in 2019. So she's been married for a little while now. Let me get a couple of comments. George wants to know why Discovery didn't get an upgrade on their uniforms. I agree. I would love to have seen them in the new uniforms. They got the new little badge, which I love the new badges, by the way.
Right.
Both design and function. I would love to have seen them in the new uniforms. I wonder if that's going to happen like toward the end of the season.
I have thoughts about those comm badges, which I will share in a moment. But as for the uniforms, the USS Constitution, the Navy's Revolutionary War era ship, or just post-Revolutionary War, remains in commission and is permanently moored in Boston Harbor, as it's a tourist attraction. But the Navy personnel assigned to the Constitution wear the 18th century Navy uniforms as their daily uniforms. So we could.
I love that.
We could make the case that something similar is going on here with Discovery. Just as kind of a sentimental curiosity. They're allowed to wear the uniforms from their era.
Maybe so. Or maybe they just haven't earned those new uniforms yet.
That's also
their mindset is still 22nd, third, whatever century. You aren't thinking like a 32nd century yet. I don't know. You were going to say, Anthony?
I was going to say, even Voyager, when they found out that the Alpha Quadrant had their new uniforms, even though they seem to have zero issues with their replicators, they didn't upgrade their uniforms. So maybe it's maybe you're right, Alan. Maybe it's you got to earn those new threads.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really see any reason for Voyager to change though, until they come back home. Let's see. Wendy says, "Oh wait, I got to come back and get Wendy's first two comments from when we first went on."
Mm-hmm.
Is the sound on? Oh, sorry, that was me.
Well, I can't hear Wendy, so maybe not.
I was angry with her and thought she deserved much more punishment. I didn't hate the episode, but I was like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a theory about where that's going to go too, that we'll say for a little bit later. Oh, okay. So you were going to, I don't know if you got to it. You were going to say something about the comm badges.
Yes. They are doing an awful lot of heavy lifting.
Yes.
They're not just comm badges. They're also personal transporters. They're also tricorders. They're also
sonic screwdrivers.
Sonic screwdrivers.
I was going to say that. Stealing my lines, Alan.
Oh,
and
sorry.
I mean that. I feel like they're doing too much. If you lose that one thing, it's like today. If I lose my phone, I don't just lose my phone. I also lose my social media or my music or what have you. You lose your comm badge, you're seriously SOL. Also, it's kind of a disservice to cosplayers because now they've got so many fewer things to accessorize with. There's no Discovery tricorder anymore, for example.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
And third, just a little more generally, I hate the idea of personal transporters because it doesn't make any sense if you think about it. It makes even less sense than transporters generally, because a personal transporter would have to dematerialize itself. So while it's in transit, it is also converted into energy along with the person that it's sending. So
that's a good point.
It's
so how is it going to reassemble you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like taking a surge suppressor and plugging it into itself. Like, oh, hey, free energy. And next of all, as I see George is also getting close to, Linus is obviously incompetent and should be removed from that ship.
I love Linus and his flipping everywhere, and I can see George here says that the joke got old quickly, but
I didn't think it did.
Well, no, as a joke, it was fine. It worked. They did it 3 times, which is the perfect number.
Exactly.
2 times sets the pattern. The third time gives you the punchline, and the punchline in this case being breaking up the kiss between Michael and Booker. But he's obviously a danger to himself and others, and has no business on a starship.
Well, they're not going to remove him because they allow just mutineers and whatever they want to just continue on in service.
Exactly.
So just being clumsy with your personal transporter, that's not going to get you out, definitely.
I mean, I think that puts him in place as the front runner for the new first officer.
Okay, so let's talk about that. How are they going to address the first officer position? Are they going to name a new? I mean, I'm sure they will name a new first officer.
Yeah, I assume it's going to be Lieutenant Nielsen because Saru has given her the con in Michael's absence before.
Yeah.
Of course, that's also true for some of the other bridge crew, but it seemed like they've been grooming her, and I don't mean that in a creepy way.
I don't think we would have taken it that way had you not said that.
And also, I think the producers really.
Brushing her hair.
Yeah, yes. I think the producers really like that actress and want more things for her. You may recall that actress played Lieutenant Ariam for the entire first season.
She did, until she had problems with the makeup or whatever. So they got
Oh,
somebody
that's
else.
what happened?
Yeah,
Okay.
from what I hear. Now,
I didn't know
my theory is that she got wind that they were going to kill Ariam off, and she just wanted a way to stay on the show.
that.
So she made up that shit about, oh, I can't wear the makeup. So they hired somebody. So, it was nice of them to keep her on in a different role.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
But Trek loves to do that, and it's easy to do when there's so many different aliens with
Yeah, well,
different
that's true.
appliances on their faces. C. Combs, Jeffrey.
So every time Nielsen came on the bridge for like the whole of the second half of season 2, I kept saying, "There's fake Ariam." Oh wait, Daniel said the same thing. Fake Ariam will be the number one. I don't know though. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say it's either going to be her or they're going to go with someone external to Discovery.
Yes,
in which case,
will.
I think Willa is the prime candidate.
Exactly right. That's who's going to be, because it's going to be just like Major Kira on DS9. They're going to want the Federation's going to want one of their people on the ship, so she's going to be put in place of number 1.
Yeah. I think you nailed it.
I think so. Nielsen would be nice, but they just haven't shown any. Just like all the other bridge characters, they haven't shown nearly enough interest in establishing those characters in any meaningful way. So even if she was made first officer, the first officer wouldn't really be a role anymore. It would just be here, you take control while I go off and do this other thing.
Right.
It won't be a position that's folded into the narrative.
Right.
Yeah. The only, I think that Willa is definitely it. The
only bridge personnel who I think has reached that level of characterization would be Detmer, and
that's only this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's not going to be. They're not going to do that with her.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Since she's kind of freaking out about everything.
Yes.
And it was interesting. We've gotten a good little view into Detmer every episode this season. This one, Owo comes over to her console, and it's the programmable matter, and it's like, and she's like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" And Detmer's like, "Do we have to have this?" Like, she's nervous about it, and it was just a tiny little thing,
right?
So at least they've not dropped the thing, but I kind of need this to be addressed. I need Detmer to get to a point where we don't have to worry about her. Where, I mean, not for our sake, but for hers. Like, she's in this position where she's continuously nervous, and it's going to come to a breaking point at some point.
And speaking of Detmer, we didn't see the reactions of the rest of the crew to Burnham's flouting of the chain of command. But I've got to think a lot of the other crew must be getting pissed off with her too. And in particular, Detmer's Burnham's insubordination is the reason Detmer only has half a face now.
Good point.
Going all the way back to the pilot episode.
Yeah. Good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know.
You're making me want to rewatch the entire thing.
Oh no!
I know. Terrible.
George says Saru did pull her aside for an off-camera moment.
Who?
Nielsen? I think so. Yeah. So any interaction that.
Oh no! Look up a comment. He means Tilly. Yeah, but Tilly's way
it's not Tilly. She's an ensign. She's not going to be first officer.
Yeah, much too junior.
I mean, they could do a field promotion, but not that many steps up at one time, I don't think.
Yeah, I think she doesn't quite have the right calm under pressure mentality either.
Right.
I did think that very briefly they might be positioning her for that, but she's not ready.
Right. Agreed.
In any way, shape, or form.
And I think she would agree with that.
Definitely.
Let's see. Wendy says, because the bridge crew hasn't had much time, I didn't even notice this potential number 1 yet. Like, never noticed. LOL. Yeah.
Are we talking Nilsson, or are we talking my boy Lannis?
Linus as the new first officer?
Yep.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
The campaign starts here.
Now,
his whole training is just getting the mastery of his new technology. Once you get that, you'll be ready to go.
If Linus were more like Linus Van Pelt from Peanuts, then I might be on board with that.
He is rapidly becoming my favorite of the the secondary bridge characters.
Yes. Hang on. George says that he loves your dry wit, Vandy Beth. Oh. We all do.
Oh.
So there you go.
Feel like this is time for a Homer melts back into their shrubbery emoji or animated GIF, but
we can make you feel more awkward if you would like, Vandy Beth.
That would be great.
So any more thoughts about the mission on the planet with the Amazon warehouse? And I mean, it was kind of like story filler, except for getting that actual black box.
Right.
Yeah, it was about getting to the MacGuffin, fundamentally. Right. You know, it was nice to see Book again, but I think it was a contrivance to get him back on screen.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. And they also introduced Rin, the Andorian.
Yes.
And he survived. At first, I thought he was going to be basically a red shirt by the end, but he looks like he survived. And I assume he'll be a recurring character now, which is cool because I think we need more viewpoint characters or focus characters who are part of the original, the founding Federation species.
Yes. Which we're going to get more of next week.
Yes. Looks like they're going to visit Vulcan.
Exactly. I did like seeing, hearing references to Bajor and seeing a Bajoran.
Right.
It's a little thing, but it was fun to see. Oh, and I didn't notice when they were doing the refit at the beginning of the episode, the refit of Discovery with all the new tech and the detached nacelles and all that kind of stuff. I didn't notice it until I saw somebody point it out in a comment, but it's now the NCC blah 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 A.
A, yes.
I didn't catch the A.
I didn't either.
Well, presumably that's because Discovery was kind of a sketch note in history, so they can't really admit that it's still around, so they had to pretend it's a new version of the same ship.
Actually,
well, sure, but usually refits don't get a letter attachment. It has to be a new.
I'm not saying that it's a refit, that they're saying it's a refit. I think they are pretending, even though we know it's a refit, that it's the same, that it's a new version of the Discovery, like a new ship entirely.
Right.
For that point.
For Wendy, the slave revolt was her favorite part of the episode.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. It was nice to see a different texture, a different feel. You know, it was nice to see action. I really did enjoy it. It just felt like there were other things that should have been dealt with. I still want more Discovery. That's the bottom line.
And the revolt also felt like something we've seen many times before, both in Trek and in other IP. It always makes me wonder if it was, if it was this easy to overthrow your slave masters, then why did it take just these two yahoos showing up to do it?
Because all the other ones are a victim of the system. You have to have someone coming from outside the system to introduce a new element.
Well, yeah, but people are coming from outside the system all the time.
I mean, you would think that would have been Book.
Exactly. That's the other thing. And once they got back aboard Book's ship, they were firing their weapons, and they took down the whole facility by firing the weapons on Book's ship. Which, if Book's ship can do that, why didn't Book do that in the first place?
Well, I think it's also like Book even said, "Look, I got this covered. You don't need to get me out of here. I'll be fine."
Right.
Like he has a plan, and they stumble in and do their thing. But
okay, but his plan, he'd been there for 3 weeks already. His plan was taking too long. Obviously, their plan was superior because it only took 40 minutes.
Travel to, do the thing, and travel back in under 12 hours.
Get her done. Book's judgment is not to be trusted on that.
He has good taste in cats. That's about it.
Pretty much.
And in girlfriends.
Well, yeah.
All right. So let me find an earlier comment from Wendy. Hang on. It was about them coming back to the ship. She was shocked when Michael and Book were suddenly in sickbay. I thought that they would have had to go directly to Saru, or he'd come to them, but leave Book there with his friends. And I agree. I thought it was kind of weird that the first thing we see, like all of a sudden, they're just in sickbay, and obviously they had to take care. I don't know how long they had been there at that point. Obviously, they had to take care of the Andorian who was in critical condition,
right? And
that would take precedence over, I think, over reporting to a superior officer.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seemed it seemed weird.
I think if it had been, Picard, he would have been like, beam them all to sick bay.
Well,
Riker, you have the con. I'll meet them down there.
Right, that's true. Picard maneuver. And then Wendy had another comment that I wanted to get in. Oh, this is Daniel. This is how they set up the spinoff for Michelle.
Meaning Georgia.
Huh? Yeah,
Georgia.
Uh-huh. They're slowly turn her to the good in the sense of not evil, but she'll be able to do the necessary underhanded things that Section 31 can do without fear of her going full on Terran. I agree. And, it's almost like they are setting up a spinoff for Burnham as well. At the end of the episode, she has this moment and she's all teary and shit, and she takes off the comm badge and looks at it thoughtfully, and she's going to leave Starfleet. I don't know if it's going to happen as the cliffhanger for the season, or if it's going to happen like soon and her coming back will be the resolution of the season, but she's going to walk out.
Okay.
I think you're probably right. I mean, I got the feeling it was getting set up for that. So I was like, are they really, do they have the gumption to actually do that?
Yes, I think they do. And what that does is split the narrative even further between Discovery and her. So we're going to get even less time with the ship and the crew, which is not a good thing.
Give me more Lieutenant Nielsen, please.
Yeah, I do like Lieutenant Nielsen a lot. I want to know more about her.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't find her as interesting as Detmer. But
definitely not.
But I thought that scene meant Michael's just taking off her badge, looking at it, reflecting on how simple it was and easy to use, and wondering just why Linus is so fucking stupid.
Clearly, you have a line into Burnham's inner thoughts that the rest of us do not share, and you are the superior intellect for that.
I mean, if you want to say that.
Or she's looking at it going, Linus is clearly really fucking dumb. Wow, he's prime candidate to be the next first officer.
I mean, if I can screw up as bad as I do and I'm still here, he's a shoo-in.
Well, she's now the science officer, so he's
right.
He's got to find a new gig.
Is he the science officer?
Yeah.
He is?
I didn't know that.
It was. I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't even say enough about the characters to know what position they are. Except for Bryce, he's the communications guy, and Reese is the shoot 'em up guy, and Detmer's the fly the ship girl. That's as much as we get. All right, let me see what other comments I can find here. The slave revolt was my favorite part. Yeah, we got that. Book had been planning the revolt. It was ready to spring. Yeah. If he didn't have that ready, they couldn't have organized in 40 minutes. So there you go.
Yeah, that's what he says now.
Also, only Michael can save people. And that's really what it comes down to.
Pretty much.
And she also says, funny, I was going to ask what Linus does. Well, he sort of blips around the ship and blinks sideways, and that's his role. I really do want to know what his actual Saurian name is.
Why not Linus?
Because it's not Linus.
It could be Linus.
I'm sure it isn't Linus. I'm sure it's some weird name with clicks and, growls and stuff in it. And
maybe before first contact, on the Saurians' planet, somebody visited and left behind the Book of Peanuts cartoons.
So this is like the TOS episodes where they base their society on the
exactly.
Nazis. This one based their society on Peanuts.
On Peanuts, yeah. there's a on the Saurian planet. There's a Charlie Brown. There's musicians are all like Schroeder. Lucy, of course, is their emperor.
Well, of course she is.
Peppermint Patty runs their armed forces. I mean, it's all really obvious if you think about it.
You should write for SNL, Vandy Beth.
What?
You should write for SNL. See them doing this parody.
I agree, somebody should.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay. Well, that was funnier than anything that's happened on SNL this season. So there you go. Like Linus, you're a shoo-in. Okay. So this was episode 6. So we're coming up on the halfway point of the season. I was going to check to see how many episodes there are. Is it 14?
13.
13. Okay. So we are pretty much right at the midway point. Where do you think, how do you think the story has progressed thus far in the first half? And what would you like to see happen in the second half? Other than Linus becoming first officer.
I want to see Linus become president of the Federation.
A lofty ambition.
No, I mean, I'm really expecting this to somewhat go the Andromeda path and start pulling the Federation back together. And I get the feeling that might even start next week. We're clearly off to Vulcan. Based on the fact that the episode's called Reunification 3, maybe it's a little too obvious, but it seems like it's going to be, the Vulcans and the Romulans have reunited.
Yes.
We're going to try and convince them to rejoin the Federation. I mean,
yes.
That seems to be where it's going. So I think we're going to start hopping around trying to get those core members of the Vulcans, the humans, the Andorians, and so on back.
Have we seen a Tellarite yet?
I don't think we have yet.
Not so far. Except maybe over a spit roast or something.
Well, that's what I want to see him.
I think that's where it's going to go, and it's difficult to kind of think about where the tension in that will be without it devolving too much into space politics. So I think what was being mentioned earlier, we don't want to do trade blockades. I mean, we start going into Phantom Menace territory then, and no thank you. I think the point made earlier that Burnham's probably going to leave Starfleet and go off and do her own thing. I think that's where the tension is going to start coming in. So in general, I think that's going to be the direction. I could be proved wrong. I could look really stupid in 6 weeks' time when we come back and start looking at the season, end of season, but who knows?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm glad that we're going to Vulcan, and it hadn't occurred to me that the Romulans might be there as well. But based on what we saw of the Romulans in season 1 of Star Trek Picard, I would like to see that. It would be good to see that the Romulans have returned home to Vulcan, and to see them coexisting on the same world.
Yeah.
Even while Vulcans are still suppressing their emotions, and Romulans obviously give them free reign. It would be interesting to see those two cultures see how they join back together.
So if the Orions and the Andorians are the Emerald Chain, what color are we going to assign a unified Vulcan and Romulus? The maroon something? I don't know. What?
Conglomerate. I love a good conglomerate.
The bowl cut conglomerate.
All right, George is sure that Linus's name is Linus. Very funny.
Okay. Is that a pronunciation issue, or is that what is he going to do next? Who's going to be the next president? It's Linus.
And Wendy says, for some reason, I thought the preview was showing Romulans. I must have imagined the shoulder pads.
If I had a nickel.
They're light nacelles. They're detachable. And Wendy suggests that the new unification will be called the Gray Chain. Okay, so we've the only thing that we really haven't talked about yet is Adira, Gray, and Stamets.
Right.
So let's get on that subject a little bit for just a few minutes. What was your reaction to Stamets and his breaking through, basically, with Adira?
I loved it. I love that they established that they have something very unusual in common with each other. And the thing with Gray manifesting himself as basically a hallucination outside of Adira didn't make sense to me based on everything we know about Trills. And so I like that they established in this episode that it's an unusual thing, possibly even unique for Trills.
Right.
And I'm not a big continuity Nazi. I don't need much. Just one little line like that, and I'm going to be satisfied.
Exactly.
And so I was glad that they gave me that one line.
There you go.
I remember the last time I was on the show 2 weeks ago, we were all complaining about Stamets.
Yes.
Being kind of a jackass. Yeah, we were. I'm not sure. Vandy Beth, I'm not sure if you were on it.
I don't think I was.
That was the week that you weren't here.
But I feel like he's being redeemed again. You know, his human side. Adira is bringing that out, and it's making him a lot more of a sympathetic character. And I like that. Anthony Rapp is a phenomenal actor who I want to see more of. I want to see more of his relationship, because I think that pairing with him and Wilson Cruz is just adorable. And I like seeing that human element come out, and I liked seeing Stamets and Adira connect over the fact that they haven't been through the same experience, but they've been through similar experiences of having lost people that they've loved very dearly and having to figure out how to reconnect with them. It was a really nice touch, and I'm really hoping that this relationship that's being built between Stamets and Adira is going to be something beautiful.
I think Adira is a little bit too much of a wunderkind.
Yeah.
Like way surpassing even Wesley Crusher. I mean, it's just too much.
It did bug me a little that it was down to Adira to figure out how to remove Stamets' shunts. Because, I mean, that's 21st century technology.
Right.
You know, I've known people who've had ports like that installed for their cancer medicines or whatever. So
that's true.
You know, it can't be any difficult problem to remove them once they're no longer needed.
I also felt weird about her going in and completely rebuilding the Spore Drive interface without him knowing. And
Right.
yes, it's to his benefit, but he was totally okay with it. And he just, he's very, very protective of his space.
Yes.
Well, it's not just that, Alan, but when you think about it, we're in the 33rd century, 32nd century. No one's heard of the Spore Drive. So to them, this is a technology that they're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And for Adira to just come in, re-engineer it, that's... Like, I don't care how advanced they are. Like, if you gave me something from the 9th century, I would look at it and go, what the fuck is this? You know, it's a bit backwards and because of that, beyond my comprehension. And I find it bizarre that Adira can just go in and re-engineer it.
Well, I guess technically the only thing she re-engineered was the way he would connect to it.
Yeah, but there's still how does that information flow? How does the data work?
Right,
Sure.
exactly.
Interface. You got to know what it does to be able to do that.
What's the baud rate?
Mm-hmm. I also thought, similarly, I thought it was weird on Book's ship when Philippa kind of like, you know, ridiculed almost how well Burnham was like flying the ship, you know, and Burnham had been on the ship for a year, but by the end of the 40-minute period, Philippa was flying it. And I'm like, how fast did you learn that? And why was it so remarkable that Burnham knew how to do it?
Yep.
Of course, at the beginning, maybe it did look fun, you know, like crazy and difficult. And then she realized, wait a minute, that's not hard. So anyway, George says, he said, Stamets being an ass really was because of the trauma. We tend to revert to old ways when we are hurting. This week, he was just a bit more adjusted again.
I think that's what I said 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So,
I think
George, I agree.
And Wendy says, do we know what rank Adira is? And why do they get to be on Discovery anyway? Not that I want them to go.
Adira is a civilian. She's not.
Right.
She doesn't have a rank.
Right.
And she was on Discovery originally because they needed to get into her brain to find out where the Federation was.
Right.
Now, I guess there is no reason.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's not to say that they're not going to be conscripted at a future time.
Yeah, that's true. You know, we were talking last week or the week before, I don't remember, about how the Spore Drive is going to be retrofitted onto all these other future ships, and that's going to be the replacement for dilithium. And I said the big problem there is navigation, because you either need a tardigrade or a Stamets, and there's only one Stamets. Adira is going to solve that problem.
Probably.
Yeah.
She is going to be the one who figures out how to make Spore Drive compatible with 32nd century technology and to make it usable without relying on a living being.
It's going to be Adira with significant input from Tilly.
Right. And poor Stamets is just going to stand around and be
he's made obsolete.
Yeah, he's going to be the Edison of the group and take credit for all of their innovations. Anyway. All right, so let's get to wrapping up. On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your what was your score for this week? Anthony, we'll start with you.
So before I got on here and started talking to you wonderful people, this was an 8. Mostly because I'm in a really great mood, having not been working all week, and completely overlooked every single one of the flaws in this episode. And the conversation I've had with you, Alan, and with you, Vandy Beth, has made me realize that yes, there was a lot to enjoy here, but it was far from perfect. So this will end up as a 6 out of 10 for me this week. I think.
Now, Anthony, in case you don't know, we've developed the same sort of pattern that you do on the Watchers, where it's 6 somethings, and we didn't steal it from you. It just evolved on its own.
So 6 incredibly rebellious first officers out of 10.
Very nice. Vandy Beth, what's your score?
Well, I'm glad I'm glad we could ruin this for you, Anthony.
I'm glad we opened your eyes to the trash that was this week's episode.
And I'm going to give it 5 detached Andorian antennae out of 10.
That was going to be my score. Oh, okay. So fine. No, that's fine. So I will give it 5.5 detached nacelles.
Okay.
Okay.
Keeping with the detached theme.
Yeah. Really quickly, George pitches in. They didn't mention what happened to Adira last week when she went off to be interrogated by Starfleet.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear more about that.
I hope so. All right. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Vandy Beth, you've been doing a great job of posting your 1980s top 10 lists.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been enjoying that thoroughly.
As have I.
And we are up to 80.
March of 1984.
Oh, we're almost in Purple Rain territory. Purple Rain happens in May.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ready.
Yep.
How's everything going with your film?
Oh, good. We were at a film festival last week, and a virtual film festival, the oddest film festival I'm likely to get into. My movie is trans themed, as you all know, and my endocrinologist recommended that I submit it to the first annual film festival of his professional society, their annual conference. So my movie just had a screening at an international medical conference.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it won't be long, and it'll be screening at international HR conferences as well.
I can only dream. I can only dream.
How many other film festivals do you have coming up?
At the moment, none. I'm still waiting to hear back from a handful. And I'm also writing my next movie, which I hope to make in 2021 in the after time.
Very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony, what's the latest with Watchers?
So a couple of weekends ago, we published our episode on the Abominable Snowmen, which is entitled Chonkers of the Himalayas.
Yep.
We will be back this coming weekend to talk about the Ice Warriors and their sizable backsides, if you've never noticed that before. They are quite, as I believe the kids would say today, thick. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, wherever you like to get your podcasts, really, and that's Watchers in the Fourth Dimension, or Watchers 4D, and we are, of course, watching our way through all of Doctor Who. So check us out.
Excellent.
All right.
And you should go check out cosmicpress.com and look at all my awesome books and order a few. That would be spectacular. Christmas is coming up, and
Christmas is coming.
Presents. So thank you both so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to end here, and we're going to be back next week for Unification 3, and we have I don't remember who. We have a full house next time. Oh, no, we don't, because Vandy Beth can't be here next week.
Yes, because it's Thanksgiving.
So we may as well just cancel.
Well,
the show will be about 50% less sexy, so there's that.
Well, 50.
Oh. 60, 70. Significantly.
Exactly.
We'll go significantly.
So it looks like we have Daniel Pierce and Elizabeth Scott will be with us next week. It's going to be awesome, and hopefully my buddy Josh will be joining us too.
Cool.
All right, so thanks so much, y'all. Have a great night. Everybody be good to each other. Go save the world, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Alan.
Take care.
Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Absolutely.